Welcome. Welcome, Alex. Hi, ADHD coach at Reset ADHD. Yeah. So here we are at a Renify event around community. We're really lucky to have Alex come speak. He's speaking on one of my favorite topics, community. I did catch your last talk about sleep, which I'm a champ at sleeping, but I love to hear good pointers so I can help the other person that I'm snoring too loud for them to sleep. Just a joke. Alex first came sort of to people's attention at the Philadelphia ADHD conference at the talent show. So he is, known, very interesting and known. And you really go to some topics around spirituality, things that are in people's real lives. And I can't tell you how much I value those things. I am going to keep an eye on the chat. If we have questions or conversation topics, please use the chat. Tell us where you're coming in from, or if there's things around community where you have questions. And as I said, I'm going to keep an eye on those. So Alex is a highly desired speaker. He's spoken at the virtual conference last year, right, Alex? Mm-hmm. And he's got 2 YouTube channels because he's an overachiever. I have some links for you, for Alex, his Facebook group, his YouTube channels, and Instagram, which is another nice place to put good stuff out there. So without further ado, community. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because kind of where I'm coming from in this whole discussion about community is the importance of social connectedness. Because I have a background in criminal justice. I have a master's in criminal justice, not a record. Made myself laugh at that one. But yeah, so one of the things I learned about in my criminal justice training was, it just kind of came up as a side note in one of my textbooks, is that the rate of ADHD in prisons is 25%. But I've seen numbers as high as 50%. So I don't know what the actual number is. And I'm sure we don't have good statistics because of how hard it is to get an ADHD diagnosis while incarcerated, because we're more about punishment and less about rehabilitation in our prison system here in the United States, at least. And then other things that kind of came up in my criminal justice studies is differential association, social learning theory. Those were pioneered by Edwin Sutherland and Ronald Akers, 2 criminologists. And basically their theories state that we learn criminal behavior through associations with people who have taught us beliefs and behaviors that make committing a crime acceptable. A third criminologist, Travis Hershey, proposed that the bonds we have in society, attachments, commitments, beliefs, are what prevent us from committing crimes. And then a recent study came out within the past few years that social connectedness helped reduce crime. And so I'm taking what I learned in my criminal justice background, this new study that came out, and then my experience having ADHD myself and being an ADHD coach, putting it all together. And basically my theory is, if we have more social connectedness, we can lower the crime rate within the ADHD community. But one of the key ways to do that is social connectedness, which can be tricky when you have ADHD. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting you tied these things that are of interest to you, of course, granted, right? That's one of an ADHD trait, to synthesize ideas in a different way. I had seen a lot about the community, several studies over time about how there's less and less community in Western culture, and other aspects of it. So I'm fascinated about how you tied it in with criminality. And how I use the word remedy when I was noting what you were saying, it feels like a remedy, this being connectedness, the social connectedness. Can you say a little bit more about how it interacts with criminal behavior?
Yeah, so if we take the two criminal theories I brought up, social, blanking on the names, I have notes, differential association and social learning theory, we can understand a bit more about how criminal behavior comes about. One of the papers I read in my master's program while I was in my master's program, while we were going over these topics, was how to become a marijuana user. Because apparently you can't just smoke it and get high. There's like a specific way you have to do it. I don't know. I've never smoked marijuana before. But yeah, there was like a whole article about how you have to learn how to smoke marijuana in order for you to smoke marijuana. Another article they had us read in that section was about the training prostitutes receive. Apparently, there are ways to go about it that are just, there are do's and don'ts if you're going to do it properly.
Well, you could imagine, as with a lot of entry level things, that there's somebody who's a mentor, right? Who maybe has an existing business and invites you into it. I mean, I'm listening to what you're saying. We had something in the chat about someone else who had worked in the prison system, and that there did seem to be a lot of ADHDers undiagnosed, and likely because ADHD medications were restricted or contraband, so they weren't necessarily officially diagnosed. And I know there used to be a white paper on the add.org website where they had done a program in a specific prison, and learning about the ADHD. Oh, this is why it keeps not working out for me. That was very enlightening.
Yeah. So I think the point I was trying to make, because I was talking for so long and forgot the point I was trying to make,
Okay,
was that we have to learn behaviors and it's monkey see, monkey do. So like as little kids, we learn behaviors. If you've ever seen one of those videos on TikTok or YouTube of little kids swearing and saying incredibly adult things, they learned it from somewhere. It's not like it came out of nowhere. So what my theory is all about is the idea if we make good, solid connections, we can prevent behaviors that are less desirable.
You want to re-say that one more time? I feel like I got a little lost, and I'm not sure which.
Yeah, so
one more time.
If we make good connections with the right people,
yep,
we can prevent behaviors that are undesirable.
Okay, all right. So friendships and connections with people who are modeling, who are living, who have values that align with ours, that's influential. I mean, that feels like A plus B. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned values that align with our values. Well, we have to make sure that our values are in alignment with, let's say, the rules of society. Because if we're just looking at, person A and person B, they both agree that heroin should be legal and used by everyone. Their values are aligned. At a good value, probably not. Heroin is not something I would recommend.
Well, if your value is to live a long and healthy life, using heroin regularly is not in alignment with that value.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so Yeah, it goes back to that old expression, you are who you hang out with.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like there's one step further, which is, what was that? Lay down with dog, get fleas.
Yeah.
So we have in the chat, I can see that maybe people who can synergize with, or that are supportive, so that this thing where if we start to, I know when I was younger, you're the people who are your classmates who you think are interesting, but as you get older, you kind of choose your friends. Hey, I don't want any drama, so I'm not going to hang out with that person who gets drunk and pukes every time we go out, because that's not fun for me. Or something along those lines, that you might cultivate friends. This feels like cultivating, feels like you have to be intentional in this conversation.
Intentional is a good word, because it's not something that just happens. You have to be, like you said, intentional about creating the right social bonds, the right friendships, whatever you want to call them. Trying to think of a good example from my own life. Yeah, just friends who were bad influences on me and didn't lift me up and kind of led me down behavior that weren't in line with the values I was being raised with and the values I hold now. So
there is that path, though. I mean, how many people have we heard who are the daughter or son of a religious leader, and they are the bad seed, right? Or they're rebelling against that. So there is some of that adrenaline seeking in the ADHD folks. So it seems like a little tricky to navigate this.
Yeah, especially when you take impulsivity into consideration. So that an idea comes and you just go with it. So yeah, and I was just talking to a client this morning about impulsivity, and we came up with ways of redirecting him from the impulsive behavior, other ways to get the dopamine that were better choices. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's a conversation, but
let's throw it out to the group. Can people relate to this impulsive thing where, maybe everything's cooking with gas, and then, I don't know, it's, I feel like these things happen after the sun goes down or after midnight, right? Maybe that's why there's that song, After Midnight, where, hey, everything's pretty good, and now I'm sitting on Amazon, and I was just looking, but now I've purchased something that's kind of a high dollar thing, right? An impulsive purchase. So there are other people where they tell themselves one thing: I'm not going to eat that Oreo cookie after 9 p.m. or the whole box of Oreo cookies, right? And then it's almost like having that thought, I'm not going to do it, help sort of, now we're right at the edge. Are there other people where there's certain impulses, maybe food, maybe purchasing other things that sneak up on them? Thank you. I admit to behavior like that. Okay, me too. I admit to behavior like that, especially cookies. Cookies are my nemesis.
Really anything sweet for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of redirecting us back towards community and social connectedness. That impulsivity is something I feel like other people can help keep in check. If you're around somebody and a good friend will say, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Or are you sure you want to buy that thing? Is that in line with your values? I know I've got good friends that will hold me accountable if I'm going to do something impulsive, and they will call me out.
I really like that your paradigm is about community and friends. A lot of times in the ADHD world, they'll say, oh, you marry a good partner, but some people don't get married, right? or you only, sometimes this is all you got, right? And the people you cultivate to be your friends, and having friends who will say, yeah, we're walking past this this froyo store, but you said you were looking to have something different, right? And call you, hey, maybe this isn't, I mean, that's not what you said you were going to do. So that cultivating your friends to help you keep your own commitments to yourself, I really like that. And empowering them, hey, I want this from you, right?
Yeah.
It's okay for you to tell me those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I love when I get called out on my, I'll say, bull crap. Well, I love it, and I also don't love it, if I'm being honest. But yeah. But
it's tricky. Is it tricky in the moment? Is it because you know, I have a spouse, and sometimes I'll say, hey, it's that time you said you wanted to go to bed, and there's a little, you know, is it tricky? Is there a navigating? Is there a, all right, they said that thing to me, I know their best intentions, I'm going to take a 5-second breather?
it definitely slows me down. I know other people can just tune stuff out, and I've been guilty of tuning things out. But yeah, I think we just had a really good comment in the comment.
You're right.
I feel that's when boundaries and communication are super important. Yes.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that in there. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to either give permission or validate that we wanted that. Otherwise, the relationship's lopsided, right? They're always reminding us, and what are we doing, right? Maybe it isn't lopsided. Maybe it's equal, but there is some, I like to say in the ADD universe, that which in other places doesn't need to be said absolutely has to get said, because no one's sure what's going on unless you say it and have agreement around it. Yeah, really good point.
Yeah. And people are agreeing in the comments.
Mm. So I heard we talked about intentionality, cultivating.
Yep.
We used a lot of language that were very theoretical at the beginning, not all of which I fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
So you said social learning theory among a couple of these language, the things that were very specific. Can you say a little bit more about at least that one, social learning
Social
theory?
learning theory, yeah. So this is Ronald Akers, is a criminologist. So basically, that's the motivation and skills to commit crime come through people with whom they associate. So when we're talking about the people we hang out with, they're the ones who are teaching us, oh, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, those sorts of things. They can also give us values that if we hadn't had like a previous value on something that was strong, they might say, hey, did you know that this is okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Groupthink. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
how many people, I mean, since it got dropped in there, how many people have experienced groupthink? They're with group people, they might have a different thought, the whole thing just starts going a certain direction. It starts to have momentum. Yeah. Okay, go back. You were talking about Ronald Akers and I interrupted you.
Yeah. Well, not, yeah, you interrupted me, but yeah, so he was talking about social learning theory and how we learn behaviors and whatnot from those people that we hang out with, and ideas too, not just behaviors, but ideas. So I think what we can learn from that is that we need to have good, solid connections in our lives. And I really think that it's not the easiest thing in the world when you have ADHD to find the right people, because we face a lot of rejection. And so it can seem like whoever wants to be our friend, we can be friends with. So yeah, let's go with that person. And then we might get into the friendship and think, oh, I'm learning how to do things that aren't in line with my values. These aren't what I want to be doing. But yeah.
So I feel like I'm hearing, correct me, please correct me, okay, and interrupt me. You have my permission. So this, I feel like this maybe being rejected means that sort of whoever comes, like, thinks we're interesting and starts to be in our sphere, that we might be like a beggar at the table, like we'll take whatever because we're kind of starved, rather than maybe I'm not that excited about that person, right? I had done a conversation with Dominic Valandro, and he had talked about when he was in school, he was both in the gifted program and then always in detention. And he had one friend who also traveled that circuit with him. So that was his community, as somebody who could be in these two different spaces, which is kind of an asymmetrical. But I mean, there are disadvantages to being at the table where you don't think you have any other social connections, where there isn't any one, like you didn't choose them. I feel like some ADDers are very, very charismatic, and they like, hey, Alex is so interesting, I want to be friends with him, and like we could become interested in and sort of chase around after people that we're interested in.
Yeah. And so I think that goes back to impulsivity and the having an interest-based nervous system. Ooh, that person's exciting. That person's new, interesting. Let's go follow that. And then maybe we get to know them at a deeper level and we realize, oh, maybe not what I wanted. So that's why I think it's important to find organizations that align with your values, so that you can find people who align with your values, if that makes sense.
It so makes sense. This really makes sense. So there's sort of something that's overarching, right? About maybe it's church, right? We all believe, right? We're all, I don't know what, Baptists, I'm sorry, I'm Jewish, right? But you go into a place where there's Jews, there's two Jews, there's three opinions, but I do feel at home, I feel safe in that universe. So I can understand where we're looking for some place where there's shared values, even if it was like a meetup hiking group. We know that that group, even without a whole set of values or a credo, that they're going to go hiking. Yeah. That they're not a sitting around group. So if you are a person who wants to be outdoors and hiking, and that's important, those are your values, you'll find that in that group. But that's what I feel like I'm hearing you say. Looking for a larger group instead of having to, I mean, that's easier to catch fish when there's a whole group of them together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, within those groups, there are smaller groups, and and we're getting into social constructs and how people all interrelate. But I had a point. What was it?
Well, you started with social learning theory, and then we moved over to this conversation about looking for a larger organization.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I think groups like Renify, ADA, CHAD, even just homegrown ADHD support groups, like on Saturday, which is tomorrow, oh my goodness. Tomorrow I'll be meeting with a group of people in my city who all have ADHD, and I'm just looking forward to it. But yeah, going back to the hiking groups, like one of the values there is exercise, That's something that's of value to those people. It's not someone who's just, like you said, sit around and do nothing.
Yeah, because I come from a long line of sit and eat and talk people. Not I have one sister and she is an exercise hike person. You know, when I visit her, I know we're going to go for a hike. When she visits me, I know we're going for a hike. Do I hike most of the time? Not so much. But that is when I'm with my sister, that's part of that culture with her, because that's important to her. And then I really like what you said about being in your own neighborhood with your ADD group that meets up. There's I know they're not all necessarily Chad groups. There's a lot of groups on Meetup like that. And it's really helpful. I mean, on the one hand, the internet's fantastic. We can connect with people all over the world that we have stuff in common with. But this thing about, hey, let's go to that barbecue restaurant together. Right? Wink, wink, because I saw you like barbecue. that level is just, I mean, makes life worth living, right? That you can go and really enjoy some treat together. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to a bagel place tomorrow, local bagel shop. So that'll be good. But yeah, connecting with people who are near you, I think is, because there's something special about being in person with someone. And I know we're coming out of a global pandemic, so it might be a little scary. Might have to wear a mask if that makes you feel more comfortable, but you know, taking reasonable precautions, I think you're relatively safe.
I really like what you're saying there. I think that that's so crucial, is understanding your own comfort, thinking about it a little bit in advance before you are there, before you're out in the event. Do I want my mask? Will I wear my mask? You know, better to have it and then not decide I don't want to use it, or I do. I mean, I had a plumbing problem in my home and my landlord came up to fix it and he had his mask on. So I thought I didn't need one with him, but I went and got mine because all right, that's the culture, right, in this space with these other folks. And I find it's really helpful to understand what you need to feel safe so that you can really fully self-express yourself. You can't fully self-express if you're busy hiding or masking or worrying.
Mm-hmm. You bring up an interesting topic there, masking. I don't know if you meant like physical mask or the face you put on to seem normal.
Let's go both directions. Let's go that direction. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons like I like the ADHD group so much, is you can like let your guard down and be yourself and people get it. You know, everybody's different, but there are things that are in common with ADHD, if you know what I mean. I
do. The first conference I went to, we had some group of people that already knew each other. We met in the hotel lobby and we were going to go out to a walking distance restaurant. No, I'm not making this up. I have a very vivid memory. Every single one of us, me too, went back up to the room because they forgot something or wore the wrong thing or whatever twice. So, I mean, there might have been some neurotypical spouses in the room, you know, in the group, but literally every person had either forgotten something or needed to go back up to the room twice. If you don't have this bandwidth for that, this is my crowd and they forget stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Then, why are we still here? Weren't we supposed to leave 15 minutes ago? No, this is us. This is how we are. We have space for it, and how we be in the world is we're accepting. That's how we are. Yeah. I really like this other thing in the chat that I see. Being in nature is therapeutic. Green therapy, really good for our tribe. Amen. Amen. Yeah. But yes, this understanding and having some commonality and, you know, memory issues is big, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were there other things that you had thought about for this, where we kind of can understand where you get in with maybe someone who's attracted to you, maybe someone who thinks you're interesting, they have bad habits or or other things that are in this criminal behavior universe, and they teach you, they indoctrinate you, they mentor you, that you can, by being accepted, you sort of can get pulled along with the current. What were your thoughts about coming at it where you're building community, not necessarily where you're being adopted into a community, where you're making it for yourself more?
Yeah, I think that's where you have to really look at, like I said, your values and start there. I think that's a really good starting place for a lot of things, but for creating community as well. Starting with your values so you know what you're looking for. That way, when you're starting to build, you know what you're looking for, as opposed to, I'll just go with whoever I find interesting. So, you mentioned finding the right person in your life to marry or whatever. That was a while back, but yeah, I think that's another area where like you need the right values in place so that you can build something from a strong foundation. And I'm forgetting the question now.
It was about building. It was about if we're in the place where we're building the community or we're being intentional around it, what are the starting points? What are the key elements? If that's where you were going. If you're not, let's go somewhere else.
No, I think that was where I was going. Yeah, starting with the values and building from there.
We're a common interest, right? Like we're a common interest. Yeah.
Yeah. So values and then common interests within those values. Because within values, you can find a lot of people. Like a value of mine is honesty. There are a lot of people who have that same value that I don't want to hang out with. Because they're good people, but they just don't mesh with me,
I do. It's like when I hear people describe themselves as brutally honest, that is they may as well have said, I don't talk to me. I want people who can be honest. I'm not asking for them to sugarcoat it, but I don't really want brutal in the conversation. That's just not for me.
Yeah.
And then when we said common interests, my husband's got a 65 Dodge Dart GT, one of those kind of. So, we joined the car club. You would be surprised how many people in the car club are ADHD. It just is like, I feel like 90% of the car club is adult men with ADHD. Do we talk about that? No, we talk about the thing we're interested in, the cars.
Yeah.
And then we do activities around the cars, and we're outside in Southern California.
Good place to be outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I think that's a good example of, you're finding the right community, but you're finding it through things that are comfortable for you. You do want to stretch yourself, but there's also this element of finding what's going to work best for me, as opposed to just, oh, this is going to stretch me because I hate doing this. There are levels of comfort it's like dipping your toe into a swimming pool. You want to go a little bit in, just so you're not shocking your system, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we have in common that we have Shiba Inu dogs, which is a little Japanese dog breed. And I had looked to join a Shiba club here, and I forget what there was about the Shiba club, but it didn't quite line up. Like, yeah, it looked like a good idea at first, and then I got there and maybe my dog wasn't good with other dogs, but I was like, I wanted this, but it's not really fit. It's not a fit. So that ability to understand if it's a fit, is it meeting enough needs? Do I feel like I'm safe or belong here, or could be myself? And I wanted it real bad. So it was disappointing, but it just wasn't the right fit. I do have other friends with Shibas, and so that's my Shiba club, right?
Unfortunately, I don't have a Shiba. I've got
Oh,
an
Klekai.
Alaskan Klekai.
Oh, that's right. Sorry,
Very
it was a
similar.
little dog with a curly tail, so I was
Yep.
like, it's the same. But yeah, those Klekais are very cool. Sorry, we're on a
Yeah.
dog train. We'll come back from dog train.
Okay.
Klekai.
But
I know there's 5 people looking up Klekais right now.
but yeah, you made a good point, and I wanted to point it out and then expand on it, about the club not being what you wanted, so you stepped away from it, even though it was something you did want. But you did find a sort of community around dogs.
Yes.
You've got your own Shiba club, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's sometimes you can tiptoe into other communities like the rescue German Shepherd Club. Oh, those guys are fun, right? They got dogs. It's close. It's close enough.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But that I see in the chat, I find I struggle with that, wanting to do something and then something about the situation deters me. And I feel like for ADDers, sometimes we can name it. Like I take a long time to process emotions, really a couple of days, weeks. It could be longer than that if it's something that's really difficult. And so I don't necessarily know why I don't want to go back. Like I can't name it, but I can't name it, but I know I don't want to go there. So I find that that's my intuition if I can't name it, and I should listen to that voice is important. Sometimes the logical part of me wants to discount that. Well, they have the dogs, right? And you really wanted to be in this club. So that listening to your inner voice that says, because I don't think I'm alone in the not real-time processing of emotions. I think that I'm not alone in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that.
I totally agree. I don't know if we're allowed to jump in or not. I'm not sure, but I so agree completely. I mean, I'm just looking at my son saying, see, it's not just me. Like it really, I'm not holding back. Well, I guess I could turn my camera on. That'd be easier. Like I'm not holding back. I just really, I'm not sure, but there's something. And so there's my son. We both have ADHD. But thank you. I so relate. Oh, thank you so much.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of people's children will get diagnosed and then they'll find, hey, we're in this assessment and everything you're saying about my child is true for me. What are you saying to me? And so having each other to understand where are the edges, where is the ADHD versus where's my personality, it's really helpful to have somebody to talk to.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for this group so much.
You're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I had a thought. No, it's gone.
It'll come back.
ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's do. So I'm kind of good at this retread because I need to do it too all the time. So wanting to do something and finding the situation deters me. The internal, I'm not so good at processing, but maybe that's my intuition, just follow it. And then the other things about discovering the ADHD and having somebody else to talk to or relating to this conversation highly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Something in there sparked something, but.
So this thing that we're doing right in front of everyone, I like to show the cards. I really like that. I think it's important for other ADHDers to learn. This is what happens, this thing where you lost track in the middle, right? And you're probably a quick thinker, and then where did that stinking thought go? But if you're in the right place, people will wait, they'll help you retrace your steps. I'm going to look in the chat and see if someone else retraced our steps with some other key points. But being in a space where we can just say, this is what's happening for me, and then owning it,
Yeah,
moving along.
And also just having a a good sense of humor about it too. Because because sometimes you just need to laugh. Like the client I had this morning, he and I laughed because we were having ADHD moments talking about ADHD. It was a good time. These are the types of communities you want to build, and having people who affirm you and hold you up and hold you accountable at times are going to be the right friendships to have, and things that are going to keep you on the straight and narrow, as we've alluded to several times in the conversation.
I mean, there's these guideposts. The other thing is sometimes when we're learning about the ADHD and we hear about other people, for example, with really routinized days, right? They get up, they have a whole set of things. Maybe they meditate or journal, and then they bathe and have breakfast, and you go, well, I should be doing all those things too. What's working in the way it's already happening? Like, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. I remember my husband got diagnosed a good 10 years ahead of me, and he just came back like, everything's wrong with me and I have to be different. And I was like, I just moved across the country to be with you. I like who you are. So, there's what works for us is very valuable, and not necessarily looking outside and going, I have to do it this other way, or this is the advice. Like your sleep conversation. Yeah, if you don't get good sleep for 2 days, bleh. This isn't going to work. So your environment working for you, your friendships working for you, and noticing what's actually working before I decide I have to redo it all.
Yeah. One of the things we were taught in my ADHD coach training program was build from a place of strength. Focus on what's going well, what's already working, and how do you learn from that so you can apply it to other areas, So when we talk about community, what's going well in your social life, and how can you build from that? That's an idea.
Why don't we show our cards a little? What works for you? What works in how you've got your universe, the Alex verse?
Specifically with like social things?
Yeah, why not?
I feel I have to be more proactive than some of my other friends, just because I know I can get into a routine. I can think, oh yeah, there's a hockey game on tonight, I want to watch it. There's no hockey game on tonight, it's tomorrow night. But yeah, those are the times where I find myself alone, is when I get into this routine of doing X, Y, and Z. So if I want to be more proactive in my social life, I have to be the one to organize things. Tuesday nights, I got a trivia team that I'm in charge of. And then as far as other social things, I know I need to like contact my friends because I know they're busy. They got stuff going on.
Can you take just a couple steps back? I really like where you had the game. So this is like recreation. We're not talking about body doubling or productivity. We're talking about social time. When's the game on? And being in the moment of the game with your pals. I mean, you could even be like, I feel like those Budweiser commercials, they score, right? When something happens, even if you're not in the same room, you could call each other or send a text or something and be excited by it. Then you said some other things and I got lost in the traffic. Can you recount them a little bit more?
Yeah. So I have to be more proactive. If I'm not proactive, I get in a routine of being by myself, and that leads to less community.
Me too.
So, just shifting my mindset from I'm going to do one thing and just the one thing, and then really having the flexibility to be open to doing anything. I think it was last weekend, invited people over and said, I don't have a plan. I don't know what I want to do with you people, but I want to hang out with people. So I just invited a random group of people over.
Good for you. That's so good. We have in the chat, I think I got into the habit of not inviting people out to events or places because they were busy, but I can see how that can be a trap. And I have to say the same kind of thing. Like I'll find something, it's an event. I kind of like it. Like it's not, I'm not inviting them to my place. We're going somewhere. It's a thing. But you know, if you always pick a Saturday night and your friend always says no on Saturday night, you know, it's tricky. It's the how many no's can you take? But I feel like it needs to be more like, if you find a thing that looks interesting to you, and that's the other thing is I'll wait till we're very close to that thing, right? Maybe as soon as you see it, hey, is anybody interested in this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that you just be like, hey, I don't have a plan for this. But other elements I really like about it is, you know, let's pretend you did have a plan, right? That the plan some one thing could make the plan not doable. But being open in it, it gives other people a chance to be a contribution to you, to the party, to help with the theme, to do stuff, to make stuff, and to have more camaraderie, which I really, there's something nice about having it loose. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you just said reminds me of improv. The fundamental rule of improv is yes and. So you accept what's given to you and then build upon it. And so just being open to having a gift come into your life, recognizing it as a gift, accepting it, and then building upon it can lead to something great. Like we had a great time when I had people over, even though I had no plan.
Right. But the people were the plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know it's not really the right quote, but like the medium is the message. Hey, this is just about us being together, people who know each other and enjoying ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. So let's just look out into this universe that's in the room with us. So is this resonating? Are people thinking, hey, I could either find things and invite people, or I like Alex's idea, maybe I'll just, you know, throw out an invite. And if you know, I know the COVID thing, and a lot of people in the Renify sometimes are caretakers. I mean, this could be as, let's meet at the park with a picnic. It doesn't have to be, I have to clean my house, if that's a barrier of entry. Like, how low can you make the barrier of entry for social stuff? And, and that's part of why Meetup's really good, right? Because somebody else did all of it and all you have to do is show up.
Yeah, I like that. Just making things real simple. Like I said in my invite, if it's nice out, we're going to hang out outside. We can hang out inside if it's not nice out. And it was a great day out. So we all sat outside and had a good conversation, talked a lot about movies, and yeah. But
and that's, I love that thing where it's movies, right? It doesn't like, I mean, it just has to be this thing you're interested in to be excited by it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I liked that low barrier of entry. Just something really simple. Yeah, good stuff, Melissa.
Yeah, I like less is more is one of my things I say. I know it sounds ridiculous to some people. And then I finally looked up where it came from. It had to do with that, you know, the ornate style that was in, and then kind of that craftsman style that came in that was very simple. And I'm like, oh, well, yes, I do see where less can be more in architecture. Yeah. And then I want to circle us back to Renify, where a lot of the folks in this room know each other and have done different groups together, different events at Renify. And so you can chat one-on-one with each other. You can, you know, be phone buddies or connect outside. I mean, we're all around the world. There's some safety in that. But this community lends itself we have a lot of the same, we have interests in common. And then somebody will come in with their special interest and I will geek out over it like this. I will. We met a woman who does bee photography. And I was like, I don't know where she's been all my life, but I just can't get enough of it already.
You said bee photography, like bumblebees and
Yes.
that's awesome.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah. I took a photography course in college and fell in love with photography. So I've taken a photo of a bee before, but just one. So
Well, maybe we could make the wannabe bee photographers club here at Renify. Yeah. Form follows function. Thanks. That's a really great. And it has a rhythm to it. So I love that. I want to give you the last word, Alex. So is there anything you wanted to leave us with? Is there a idea or thought? And then I'm going to put back in the ways to find Alex if that I have some links for Alex.
Yeah, I guess you can, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Oh, no, I'm not going to say that. But just the idea of finding the right people, find your people. That's something I've struggled with throughout my life. And then when I did figure it out and find my people, life got better. So if you think it's just impossible, it's not. It is very possible. You might have to stretch yourself quite a bit to find your people, but finding your people, I think, is one of the best things you can do when you've got ADHD. Dr. Hollowell talks about the other vitamin C, vitamin connection. And I'm a big agreeer with that, I guess you could say. I think I made up a word there. But that's part of the fun of ADHD, is making up words.
This thing with find your people and vitamin C connection, that is an adventure all by itself. That if it's interest driven, if you are interested in this, finding your people and make an adventure out of it, and where are you going to look, and right. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of like finding a job, but fun.
Yeah.
So I did put in your YouTube channels. I know you have that ADHD skills with Jess and Alex and your reset. Do you want to say anything about your YouTube channel? Or any of your social media I put in there was Facebook and Insta.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, those are big ones. I'm on Twitter. I don't tweet a whole lot, at Reset ADHD. Technically, I'm on TikTok, but I don't post there hardly ever. So basically, if there's a social media out there, search Reset ADHD, you'll find me. And then, the ADHD skills with Jess and Alex, we've got a video coming out this month sometime. We filmed it. I just need to edit it and put it out there. So,
can you say a little bit about your name, Reset, and then more? Yeah.
So technically, I stole the name with permission, though, because my brother and my sister founded a business called Reset Chiropractic and Holistic Healthcare. My sister has left the business and is no longer a practicing chiropractor. But yeah, my brother was a mental health therapist, and so they had this business called Reset. And I was like, when I started my ADHD coaching business, I was like, what am I going to call it? I really liked the Reset there, but not exactly their Reset. So what I thought of when I think of Reset is when I was playing video games as a kid against my older brother. And there was a button on the N64 called the Reset button. And if I was getting my butt kicked in whatever sports game we were playing, I would want to hit the Reset button so that way the game would start over. And in my mind, if the game didn't end, I didn't lose. So I took that into my ADHD approach and saying, instead of admitting defeat when ADHD rears its ugly head, hit the reset button, start again with new strategies. And I say new strategies because when I would be successful and get past my brother and hit the reset button, he'd make me play again, and I'd still lose because I'd use the same strategies. I didn't do anything different. The idea behind hitting reset on your ADHD is so that you can hit reset, start over, but come at it again with new strength-based strategies.
I think that you said something so profound in such a short space. And I've been on dates with my spouse, and sometimes it's off the rails, some ADD thing, we're twerked, we're irritated with each other, tweaked. And then that's what he'll say. He'll say, let's just reset, self-calm, and come back. Like, let's salvage this evening, right? And so I like that idea of reset plus tools, reset plus other strategy. And I feel like there's embedded in it was the self-calming. So I'm so glad you told us the origin, because it has this connection to your family, and it's got real meaning for you. And I really connected with that. Yeah, that was beautiful. And thanks for everyone for joining us today. Alex, is there you told us about your new video coming out, and I think that at Renify today, there's a co-working session later in the day. So I'll just mention that to folks in case they'd like to have some productivity and have some friends to co-work with. All right. That was just a terrific conversation, Alex. Thanks so much for coming here and sharing your knowledge and your insights and being so vulnerable. It really helps us to learn when we see how other people are doing it. And I appreciate it very much.